What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, giving you your weekly look what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan with my co-host Dave Martin Swagger. Dave, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, how's it going?
You know, enjoying the fall, enjoying all the movie news that comes along with it, as well as music news, where I think we'll jump into off the top here, but. Before we get too far into anything, and we're going to be talking a lot today, we got, I think it's 4 movies, a TV show, and 2 albums to talk. So stay tuned for that. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod to catch the podcast any way you want to. And give us some ratings and reviews on iTunes. We really appreciate all the feedback. Dave, before we jump into album reviews, 2 quick news items I wanted to get your opinion around. There's going to be a Riddler in the new Matt Reeves Batman movie. Did you hear about this? Did you see this?
Did I hear about it? Yes, sir. I heard about it. Why are you doing this, Eli? Oh man. Why are you doing this, Daniel? Sorry. Yes, I'm very excited. It's a fantastic choice after Jonah Hill dropped out, of course.
Yeah, Jonah Hill wanting to make $10 million, which I was actually more surprised that Robert Pattinson is not making more money playing the Batman.
Apparently under 5. That's low as fuck for Batman, given how much money that movie is guaranteed to make. Baffling sum for him.
But Paul Dano signed on to be the Riddler. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this choice. And now we have Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Jeffrey Wright, and Paul Dano leading this ensemble. Pretty strong.
Yeah, and I wonder how many other rogues are we going to get in the Batman? We know Reeves wants to have multiple villains, and we knew Hill was up for perhaps the Penguin or the Riddler. Is there still plans to do a Penguin? Who should be the Penguin now? I don't know. But they're picking just great choices. You know, I mean, Catwoman, the shortlist was Zoe Kravitz, Ana de Armas, and Isaac Gonzalez. All 3 of them had been previously thrown out by everyone as great choices. Mm-hmm. So they clearly have their heads in the right spot in terms of this casting process. Obviously, we've talked about the Pattinson choice already. Mm-hmm. So this is very exciting. I like it when the press releases for a movie that's not even being made yet, like, continue to excite people. So it's fun.
Absolutely. This is going to be a fun movie leading up to it. Star Wars trailer coming tonight. Any expectations?
No, none.
Me neither. I think we're going to see a lot of cool stuff that's not going to say much about the movie.
Yeah. So. I mean, I know they have to do it, but I don't need to see more trailers. I prefer to see as little as possible for shit like that. But yeah, that's cool.
And lastly, before we jump into the albums, Kanye West saying October 25th, this coming Friday, we will be listening to Jesus is King on all streaming platforms. Is this actually going to go down?
Fool me thrice. Shame on me. We'll see. The Jesus is King IMAX movie experience is happening Thursday night. You can buy tickets now. So that seems to lend some credibility to this timing. So I have a good feeling about it, but I'm not going to get my hopes up, obviously.
I feel better about this than the last announcement, only because it's coming directly from Kanye and not from Kim. Although Kim in the past has been a mover and shaker in terms of when the albums are being dropped. I believe around Pablo, she was dropping a lot of hints and talking a lot about it. So we'll see. I'm not going to get my hopes up, but if we're listening to Kanye this coming weekend, I'll be very pleasantly very, very happy about that, I guess I'll say. While we move on to album reviews, though, Kash Doll and Clipping. Let's start with Clipping.
Sure.
Or do you want to start with Kash Doll? Which one?
I have the Kash Doll thing up. Let's do Kash Doll.
Let's do Kash Doll. Detroit rapper. And very I'm surprised this was doing a little bit of research. Well, her first strong mixtape, her first mixtape was 2015 with Keisha versus Kash Doll. Is that right?
That's correct, sir. Yes.
And then she signed this label deal and was kind of in production hell so to speak, with her other albums, and then finally was released from her label and dropped the Brat mixtape back in 2017. And finally, we're getting the official studio album from Kash Doll. How you feeling about this stacked album?
I like it on its face, just because I think Kash Doll is just really competent as a rapper. We've talked about her a little bit recently because she was featured on the Dreezy album, Chanel Slides, a song we both liked. She was on that Pusha T song, Sociopath, a few months ago. And she's kind of just been making waves with guest spots like that. And like you said, despite her kind of being in the game for a minute now, she really hasn't made too much noise at this point. She's already 27, almost 28. And I feel like this past year plus is really when she's finally got her name out there and is now like a full mainstream force. We talked about the female rappers kind of progressing in terms of just sheer popularity and awareness. Recently, obviously, people like Megan Thee Stallion and Saweetie and Rico Nasty, list goes on. But there's also all these doll rappers. It's kind of like the littles for the guys, you know? And Cuban Doll, Dream Doll, Asian Doll. Kash Doll is the best of them easily. Not to loop them all together for being women, but they have similar names. That's why I'm doing it. And I think Kash Doll is pretty solid. I had nothing like blew me away on this album stacked, but you know, it's pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, I didn't find anything that really stood out, but I found it to be a fun listen, and I really think she establishes herself or reestablishes herself as a strong artist who I think has potential to move into those upper echelons of rappers and artists. Like the song Ready Set with Big Sean feels like, and it was a single as well, but feels like where you can see a lot of her potential. I think she really vibes really well with Big Sean on that album. Yep. They really seem to trade verses smoothly and succinctly, and I think she displays a lot of what could be for her. Other places I found, 17 tracks, I found a lot of them to be very similar.
Yep.
A lot of similar content too. Is mostly either like talking about difficult relationships or bragging about just how awesome she is and how much money she gets, which sure, whatever, that's fun too. But it was still a really enjoyable listen. I think there's a lot of fun songs right on here.
Yeah, I agree.
Stand out to you?
Yeah, I like the Big Sean song for sure. I thought Doing Too Much was pretty good. And the other feature I really liked was On Site with Trigga, with Trey Songz. Haven't listened to too much Trey Songz the last half decade or so, but I thought he acquitted himself pretty well on that. That's pretty solid. And I think Kash Doll has shown that she's not going to go like full crossover. She does feel like she's like Saweetie has done recently. Kash Doll is definitely more about the actual rapping, and she's pretty proficient as a technical rapper, so that's a good idea. But yeah, like you said, some of this gets a little samey. But overall, I think all the features were pretty solid. I even didn't mind Lil Wayne. I still don't really need to hear new Lil Wayne, but I thought he was okay on Kitten, which is just kind of an obnoxious song given the content as you expect, but it's fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a pretty solid album. I don't know. For her profile, like she already's like, got like a poppin' ass Instagram, right? Like she's already pretty famous. And I wonder if any of the music can truly transcend to that level. Like Megan has the music to back up her fame and her clout, and the Hot Girl Summer and all that stuff. And I don't know if Kash Doll totally has like the total music package to back her level of fame at this time, but it also probably doesn't matter. She's good enough on the mic that she'll be around for a while.
Absolutely. I think we're seeing the start of a long career for her. I want to move on to clipping. There existed an addiction to blood. Daveed Diggs and two producers, William Hudson and Jonathan Snipes, released a couple of albums under this rap group in the past, and they've all been kind of like concept albums, which I find pretty interesting. Daveed Diggs I think maybe more well known for his acting, on Broadway in Hamilton, and then in a lot of movies recently. What was the movie he was in last year with by like the shooting?
Blind Spotting.
Yes, Blind
Yeah.
Spotting.
And he raps in that movie.
And he's just an incredibly talented person in general. This was an interesting listen for a couple of reasons. It takes this concept of this old vampire movie from the 70s. So it kind of has source material it's working off of. And without knowing the source material that well, I felt like maybe I was, kind of missing out a little bit on it. But I found myself kind of bored throughout the listen, only because I felt like a lot of the songs kind of had the same feel to them. And nothing seemed to really jump out as like a real standout song, except for maybe two of them. But overall, I think it's interesting to be taking these like pieces of art that have already been made and these things that like inspire them and trying to like make albums off of it. So I give them a lot of credit for that. What did you think of There Existed an Addiction to Blood?
Yeah, I think the thing with David, who's the sole vocalist of the group, as you said, and the thing with a lot of the clipping songs, at least on this album, is that you almost get like distracted by how technical rappy he is with his delivery and his punchlines. There's like a very technical punchline flow. And that almost distracts you from the fact that a lot of the songs are almost structured the same way. And a lot of times they sound the same, which is weird because the production is often all over the place. It's very much experimental hip hop, very like noisy production. And the delivery kind of reminds me a lot of like Standing on the Corner, or maybe some rap songs, Earl Sweatshirt or Mike or Death Grips, But it almost doesn't feel quite as unique as like it presents itself to be, at least sometimes. Like I know like on Mid-City, their first mixtape from 2013, that didn't seem quite the case to me. But this time they go full horrorcore, as you said, with the content. And I don't know, it's just a little inaccessible, I think, at times. You kind of just have to really lock in to get the full picture, because with this kind of production, naturally, it's not super pleasing to the ear, I guess. So you kind of have to be in that right headspace to kind of appreciate this. But I would never say any of this is bad, It's certainly not. It's just very much trying to be a certain thing. So you just kind of have to be in that mood.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to kind of get into that mood for myself, at least, only because it's very dark. The beats are pretty heavy. It's not necessarily something where I like listen to it and I was like, oh, I'll throw this on in the car, or I'll sit down just to kind of like get into this mood. I mean, it is spooky season, being October and all, so like I appreciate the attempt at getting in the spirit of the season, but just not for me, I think. What did you think of the last track, like where they're like burning the piano?
What's it called?
19 minutes.
Piano burning. Well, that's the thing. Mid-City, the first project, has like a 10-minute outro. Similar idea. It's he's saying get money, and like he switches it around. It's basically the same loop over and over. And this is almost like a quadruple down on that 4 projects later, where we're literally listening to the sounds of a fire. And super indulgent, do your thing, man. But I was actually kind of happy. I was like, oh, so this album is not actually an hour plus. We can trim off 18 whole minutes. Sick.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I felt too. I was like, all right, all I hear is the fire crackling for like the first like minute, start skipping around the same thing. I was like, all right, cool. I'm over this.
I will say I listened to the whole thing. The whole fire. Turns out the piano did burn.
Okay.
And you can just take my word on that. You probably don't have to
I'm going to
double check yourself. No need to fact check me there. But David, I found his music always really interesting, because in Blind Spotting from last year, the movie, of course, the rap scene is like a very distinct, in your face not subtle moment that I think is kind of the make or break point of whether you like or love the movie. And for me, it wasn't that subtle, and it kind of took me out of it. That's why I like something like Sorry to Bother You way much more. They're kind of a similar vein. And David, when Hamilton comes out, he's kind of the one who gives like the real like cred to that music, that play, because he's the actual rapper there. He's, like Lin-Manuel, talented ass guy, obviously genius for writing all that, but it's like Harvard rap. It's like, it's not like real hip hop, but David is of real hip hop. So he almost gave like real credence, I think, to the work. And meanwhile, his own work that he actually does is, he signed to Sub Pop Records, who is famous for like pioneering Nirvana and like the grunge wave 25 years ago.
Yep.
And David's just making fucking like Death Grips lo-fi shit, man. It's it's kind of wild, but good for him, man. He's killing it. So this is definitely like, it's very niche stuff, but I'm sure this will please a lot of his fans and Death Grip fans, stuff like that. So pretty cool, but not my favorite stuff.
Other than Hamilton, the thing I like him in most is the Andy Samberg movie about the juicing in the cycling world. He's
7 Days in Hell.
Yeah, 7 Days in Hell. He's is that
Wait,
that the one, or is that's the tennis
Tour
one?
de Pharmacy.
Yeah, that's what it is.
7 Days in Hell is the tennis one.
Yeah, both of those are hilarious. Definitely recommend checking those out. Why don't we move forward on to something we've been really excited for? Damon Lindelof's Watchmen for HBO. Was this a remix? Remix of the famous Watchmen comic book series. The source material is incredibly popular, and the movie back in 2009.
Yep, Snyder.
Yeah, Snyder. He did release the Snyder cut. Came and it was received, I think, with mixed reviews. And I don't know where you fall on it. Maybe that's a good place to start. I really liked Zack Snyder's version of Watchmen. I thought it was actually a really engaging movie, and I liked the way he shot it and the whole feel to it. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, Snyder was the person that finally got that movie made. I know it was Aronofsky, tons of other people, Neil Gaiman. Like so many people tried to make Watchmen happen, and people long thought it was unfilmable because of the depth of the text. Mm-hmm. And then Snyder finally got it across, and I think visually, it might be his best movie in terms of the flair that is a Zack Snyder visual film. It's that in 300. Mm-hmm. And it's a very faithful adaptation of the plot of Watchmen, like the A to B plot of it all. And I like it for that regard. I find it very entertaining, and it's nice to look at. And I have the Blu-ray actually, but it doesn't really capture the subtlety of the work or the overall message of the comic. So it really depends on what you want. Like in terms of like a full adaptation, I guess it fails because I think everything would, because like there's so much deconstruction of what superheroes mean, and there's so much psychological stuff going on in the Watchmen comic from, was it 86? I think it is 85. Yep. That's just not there in the movie, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. Like, unfortunately, Alan Moore, who's the co-creator of the comic, he feuded and fought with DC Comics for years over this work, and he has disavowed any and all adaptation spin-offs. 2012, they did the Before Watchmen prequel comics. I actually have those. I have not read them though. Like he wants nothing to do with this, and he feels like a bastardization, or what do you call it? I think in one of his quotes from like 10 years ago, he didn't want Watchmen prostituted out, I think is how he said. Wow. And like even Gibbons, his co-writer, kind of he's been more diplomatic, but it's kind of like through like gritted teeth, where he's like, yeah, we thought we did it good. We don't need to add to it. We should just leave it alone. It's so good. And in a sense, that's right. But we live in the world of IP. Warner Brothers owns Watchmen, and currently, Doomsday Clock, an ongoing comic series, the past 2 years. The 12th issue comes out in December. That's a thing where, like, through time, multiverse shit, Superman and the Justice League cross paths with the actual Watchmen. And they got brought into that full DC universe in this comic event series. obviously Alan Moore fucking hates that that's a thing.
Right.
But David Lindelof from the start said that he did not want to adapt anything. So he did not want to do what Snyder did. He wanted to remix it, as you said. So, well, I think Snyder shouldn't get too much shit for the movie. And I don't think he really does, to be honest. Damon's not trying to do that, which I think is a very smart tact, 10 years later.
Yeah, and he's been pretty open in interviews about how this was something that was very important to him, how much he liked the comics, and how he felt a lot of anxiety taking on this project because he wanted to make sure that he did it justice and that he was, I think, addressing the spirit of Watchmen, and which I think is probably where a lot of those quotes come from the creators of not wanting to have any part of what it's become now and how they're trying to like tie it into the DC world, because Watchmen, in a sense, created its own superhero world, but it was a major commentary on society at that time, but also a critique of superheroes and how people like built them up in these comics. And
right.
Yeah. And I think, just one last thought on the movie. I think Snyder made more of a superhero movie out of it. A lot of the flourishes, especially in terms of like the action scenes and things like that, felt very much like out of a comic book in terms of like the like jiltedness of it, where it would be like slow 1 second, then like very fast and like slamming people down. But I think what Lindelof does really well in this premiere, kind of bring it around, is he captures that world building of Watchmen and really putting you in a place in time of obviously affected by the events of the original comic in the present. And he really kind of gives you a sense of all these weird things, all these differences that were made by the events of that time. But it's interesting because the series starts off in 1921, the Tulsa Race Massacre. Where this black boy is saved in a sense, and then there's the shot afterwards where he's kind of like out on his own with this baby and trying to like figure things out. And a really interesting way to start it off. And then you kind of move into more of like the present day stuff where you have Regina King's Angela and Don Johnson playing the police chief, kind of like trying to figure out this murder from the
7th Cavalry.
7th Cavalry, yeah. The terrorist group that wears the Rorschach masks, and it kind of shows you how like Regina King plays a modern superhero who's working with the police force, who all themselves wear masks as well, and kind of the two ways that the Watchmen have been taken as symbols within the society. I think it's really interesting. Any like general thoughts about the premiere that maybe we can talk about some of the things we liked most about it or didn't like?
Oh yeah, a ton. I on its face, I love the premiere. I thought it was incredibly engaging and does a great job of getting you excited for the season to come. It's a 9-episode season. I know the critics saw the first 6, and without spoiling anything, they've kind of universally been saying that things are paid off that are teased early, which is great to hear. And you mentioned the Tulsa Massacre, of course. I mean, that's no light thing to show on TV, even if it makes for compelling TV. I mean, that's the bloodiest day of racial violence in our country's history. A lot of people don't know that. It's not like super well reported or anything, but that's certainly a choice. That I think having that frame, this Tulsa setting, and how the cops are the way they are there, with like their guns being locked, and having that shown through a converse of a black cop pulling over a white guy at a traffic stop, and the obvious parallels to anxiety at the police in real life. I thought that was done really tactfully. But I mean, you mentioned the world building in general, and in the comic and in the movie, it's all about the nuclear panic. That's what drives and strikes fear into everyone in the mid 80s. And
well, the comic I think takes place in the 70s, right? Because it's Nixon who's president at that time.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. It's an alt history. So Nixon, thanks to Dr. Manhattan, wins the Vietnam War and wins multiple elections. And Nixon's like a very popular president. Funny enough, at the end of Watchmen, Robert Redford, the actor, of course, is going to run against him. We know in this
He's the
series that
president,
Redford's been president for long ass time. So that's a
Mhm.
cool little tie-in. You saw Nixon on Mount Rushmore.
Yep.
Squid, transdimensional. Squid falls from the sky. It's a callback to Ozymandias's plot to wrap everyone in the movie. I think it does a good job of setting the world and also bridging a lot of questions that is very interesting in terms of why the cops were the mask specifically, and just how everything got to where it is. And we know that Jean Smart, her character, is in fact the second Silk Spectre from Watchmen, and she'll be coming up soon. Does Dr. Manhattan actually show up in this show? We saw him on a newsreel. Is that even real? Could that be fake from the government? I don't know. But it's definitely enticing. And of course, we know Jeremy Irons, we assume, is playing
Ozymandias,
the alive Ozymandias. So what the hell goes on there? I don't know. But he's writing a play about Dr. Manhattan, the watchmaker's son. That's who Manhattan used to be. So that's cool. But yeah, I just think like tonally, it's like replacing nuclear panic with white supremacist fears. Yep. It's very much smartly, even if it's a little obvious, bringing the Watchmen story and themes to today, and the show's taking place today. So I just really like the whole premise and the ideas we're getting started with. On top of that, the lead is Regina King, who has 3 Emmys and an Oscar in like the past 5 years. Like, I can't wait to see more.
Yeah, and King is awesome in it, but just like so many of the scenes and the style like stand out so vividly. Whether it's you talk about that really tense moment where the cop is murdered by the 7th Cavalry, and he's like calling to get his gun released, and how like tense that is, or when Regina King gets she's at the school with her daughter, and the red furations, and then you have the squids like falling, and then all of a sudden she heads out and is a superhero all of a sudden, and tracking down this guy who might know something about the killing, and she's at the police station, and how that all looks, and they have the orb, or what was that
yes
called? Like
some kind of interrogation thing. Yes.
And just like the look of it all, it's so like stylistically well done, and I feel like so many like classic little Lindelof like framings, and just the way he goes about like little things of it really remind me of like shots from The Leftovers and things like that. And he's also able to kind of bring in like the human element in a lot of it. Like you see when Don Johnson's Judd is like singing Oklahoma around the table to everybody, and how like he interacts with everyone, and the relationships he has. But you also know that he's like a person who behind closed doors is like authorizing police to basically go out and like shoot people if need be, to like take down the 7th Cavalry. It's it just so well structured. Even if I don't understand everything that's going on yet, I get the sense that the show really knows where it's going, and it does such a good job of setting up set pieces, man. Like that raid on the farm was thrilling to watch, and exhilarating, and you're going to get like 1 or 2, maybe even 3 scenes like that every episode. I'm just really excited where the show can go.
Yeah, man. It's I'm just excited that it's as good as it is already. Because the trailers didn't do a whole lot for me. I was like, all right, this sounds like good proof of concept, but like you just can't get a sense of the tone or how tactfully the tone is being handled until you actually watch it. So I'm just excited that it's great. So this is good. I just reread the comic
Nice.
past month, so it's been on the mind. Actually, I want to watch the movie too, just to refresh my memory. I haven't seen that in a while. But yeah, I'm excited as hell for this. I think it's funny. Actually, I want to pause this to you. I saw this going around. Is this show pro cop? Now, the critics haven't really mentioned this, so I assume it gets much more gray. But there's a lot of police in the first one, and they're the leads. They're the good guys, so we think. That might be a problem for some people. I don't know. Didn't come to mind to me. But what do you think?
I think the first episode is very like it has to be pro one way, probably pro cop, because they're going up against, it seems like, white supremacists with the 7th Cavalry. However, I mean, the cops in this also are like basically these masked vigilantes in a sense, in terms of how they are going about things. And I think it's going to get a lot murkier. So I think it's too early to say, maybe, but
Right.
yeah, that's an interesting thing. I didn't even really consider that much.
Also, I like the touch of American Hero story. Looks like Ryan Murphy meets Spider-Verse. Looks awesome. I want to see that shit. Give me more Hooded Justice. Give me more of Dollar Bill. Barely get them in the comics, you know?
Yeah. I wanted to shout out Archie real quick, getting some shine in the first episode, just lighting up some Nazis in the sky. I'm all for that. Yeah, I like to see more of that. Maybe Rick Dalton could use that in his next film.
Rick fucking Dalton.
Jumping to some movies here, because we got quite a few to get to. The Laundromat, Steven Soderbergh's second film for Netflix. Yeah, this wasn't even a film that was really on my radar. It's based off of the 2017 novel Secrecy World Inside the Panama Papers, and really looks at how Meryl Streep's character in this, experiences a loss of her husband on a trip in Lake George, which shout out the Capital Region for that I guess tragedy at the beginning of the film. And it looks like a couple of the scenes, especially with Schwimmer, were actually shot maybe in one of the bars up there, which is pretty cool. But it really just looks at how these people built these like fake insurance organizations to just rip people off and make a lot of money, and really affected people. And the whole vibe, I mean, it feels very like Big Short to me, with like Soderbergh pacing, so to speak, I guess. Especially like the way that they kind of jump around from person, like each person. What was your feeling on this? Because I guess I'm trying to work out how I felt about the movie in general.
Yeah, man. It's funny because on its face, Soderbergh, Streep, Banderas, Oldman, sells itself.
Yeah.
Yet coming out of the festivals, you were like, oh, wait a minute. This is kind of muted. And the way it was being placed, you saw Netflix kind of took their foot off the gas in terms of any kind of push with this movie. Mm-hmm. And then it gets the really mixed reception. I'd say leaning negative. And I thought that was a little perplexing. And then when I watched the movie, it's told in a series of vignettes, and I liked most of the vignettes. I thought they're all pretty effective. Yet for some reason, I never felt like the movie fully brought it around, and it didn't really. I don't know. I feel like I was really distracted for the whole movie. I don't know. And like it ends in a very matter-of-fact, in-your-face way with the message, which is, I guess, is fine. Like I get the message was pretty clear the whole time. I don't know if you need to really spell it out like that, but like we know the people that did this were really shitty.
Yeah,
and we know that that's still a case, and that kind of exploitation in our government financial system is still prevalent today. Like, right. Cool, got it. Don't think you need to drive that home for the people with consciences. Like, got it. But I mean, I don't know, man. I just feel like maybe I just wanted something different than what I got, and if I watched it again, I'd appreciate it more. But like like the China vignette in particular, I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
and maybe I wasn't ready for it to jump around so much, and I felt like the through line was a little weak. Mm-hmm. Like Meryl Streep's whole presence in the movie, and then lack thereof for a huge chunk of the movie, kind of threw me for a loop, because I thought she was kind of the lead of it.
And I think she's intended to be the lead, and certainly the way that the story wraps up, I think you're made to believe that as well. It's funny because I almost feel like this movie should have just been Buster Scruggs, like even just like, sure. If you want to do the vignettes, just even make it more like this is a series of like 20-minute, 30-minute stories that I'm going to show, even 15-minute stories, and with a general through line about, the Panama Papers and these really terrible people and how it impacted people on all different levels. But I feel like because Soderbergh tried to make this such a cohesive piece, it almost ended up falling more flat. And like you said, with the in your face way that Streep wraps it up, it really just it really left me feeling like it didn't have like the usual touch Soderbergh has. Like, 'cause I feel like even as recently as like High Flying Birds, he does such a good job of like folding in these little nuances to it and really like creating this sense of like what's actually going on in this world, why this is important. But this just didn't really feel like him, and I almost wonder if maybe he like I'm not sure if this is like a relationship with Netflix that is what is like maybe working out the way he wanted to. I have no idea about any of that, but like it almost feels like he kind of phoned this one in a sense to like just kind of get one out there. Maybe the production wasn't going the way he wanted, but just didn't feel like a Soderbergh movie to me. That was a little bit disappointing, I think.
Yeah, High Flying Bird, as you said, that movie is just much more crisper with what it's trying to say, because it doesn't actually ever say what it means.
Right.
And I really like that movie. That's in my top 20 like this year. I think High Flying Bird's fantastic, and once again shows just how much Soderbergh can do with very minimal production. Like, he's such a boss when it comes to just making movies. So I would never really denigrate him, even if sometimes I don't know if they fully land, And like, this is his fourth movie since 2017. Logan Lucky, Unsane, High Flying Bird, Laundromat. If only two of those are really awesome and one's just okay and one's kind of meh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, good batting average.
He's a boss. So absolutely. I'm not too worked up about it. No,
not at all. And this is a movie that, other than my Netflix subscription I was going to pay for anyway, cost me nothing. I still think there's a lot of fun moments. Even though I don't understand why I got so much time, I really liked the vignette about the dad who was banging the roommate and stuff. I found that fascinating.
Right. And that's the thing too. Like, I thought that vignette's really fun and done well, and just like listening to like the daughter just talk mad spicy the whole time.
Yeah,
it is great. But it's like, man, this like is such a loose connection to the overall plot in terms of like the companies and the trusts and stuff. And I'm like, fine, like it's all good. But yeah, how'd you feel about Oldman and Banderas clearly on set for like 2 days?
Yeah,
just talking to the camera, being the narrators, being the shepherding everything through. When they first started talking, I thought it was a little jarring, because like, oh wait, they're clearly on a set right now. And they walk down through the desert. I'm like, oh wait, actually, it's actually positioned to be obviously a set. Okay, cool. But yeah, what'd you think? Because like they're just kind of narrating in a weird way, but like they're clearly just hamming it up and enjoying themselves with the performance. That it almost like gets in the way of the fact that these are like A1 scumbags.
Right. Yeah, it was funny because at first I almost was like, is that really Banderas and Oldman? Like, it felt like almost like a shock seeing them playing that role and being so like hammy with it, and like you said, being so clearly on a set. But I thought they were very fun, and it was kind of like a trick in a sense, because they are such terrible people in the movie. But I thought I really liked both of them in it. Yeah, and so many people like pop up, like Will Forte just shows up for literally 2 seconds to get murked. Like that's his whole role. It's
and
kind of
Chris Parnell.
Yeah, Chris Parnell. Sharon Stone's in this. Our guy Jeffrey Wright we mentioned before is in this.
Wasn't the dad who was banging the roommate? He was in Thrones. He was one of the Astapor. No, he's one of those like slave lords Danny kills. I think. Yep. I recognize him.
Yeah, I recognize him too. Yeah, just a lot of people in it, man. It's too bad it wasn't better.
Right.
But like you said, Soderbergh. If this is the worst that he can do, and it seems like it's still like there's still stuff there that's fun to watch. So shout out to Soderbergh. We respect you. We respect that.
I
Dave,
respect that.
well, I'm gonna kind of give the ball to you here and clear out because you were able to get to a lot of movies this weekend, and I want to hear your thoughts on Pain and Glory.
Speaking of Antonio Banderas, 2 movies this year, of course, The Laundromat, which we just spoke about, and Pain and Glory. Is the lead of the new Pedro Almodóvar film. And Almodóvar is a Spanish auteur that is incredibly prolific, who was just completely off my radar until this year. I had not seen any of his movies before. He is a 70-year-old Spanish man who has 2 Oscars and 2 other noms and just got the honorary Golden Lion at Venice. Definitely a pillar of the international filmmaking community, and I just have not seen his movies. So I definitely want to go back and see that because I really liked the first movie I've seen, Pain and Glory. It's interesting. This movie is kind of like a bit of like autofiction, where it's Antonio Banderas is playing a old, seasoned, famous filmmaker who's in a creative rut and also dealing with a lot of physical and emotional pain. And it's not direct. Everything that happens is pretty fictional in terms of like the life of this character played by Banderas, but it's pretty much ascribed to like Almodóvar's kind of digging deep in terms of what he's showing us here. And they actually recreated his actual apartment for the apartment set in the movie, which is a pretty cool touch.
Yeah.
And, I'm not going to really spoil anything. Not that there's a whole lot to spoil. It's a very emotional but subdued movie. And Banderas, who, for the most part, has not lent himself to prestige fare, right? Even his Spanish work. For what do we know him best with over here? Like Zorro and Shrek 2? Like what's the best Banderas movie to you?
Puss in Boots, dog. No doubt.
Yeah. And like
no, probably Zorro.
Yeah. And here, he's given a very tender, vulnerable performance. That's clearly his best work. And he's been thrown around as a best actor contender. And as we've said before, that's a very stacked field this year with a lot of A-list people. So I'm not sure if a role that's a little measured like this performance is enough to actually get the recognition. But he's great. And again, he carries the whole movie.
There's not going to be a spot for Banderas when Adam Driver gets a nom for Kylo Ren, Marriage Story, and the report.
Of course. And right. And Brad Pitt gets Ad Astra and
Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time, of course. Yeah, it's funny too, because this movie, the way it works basically is, and this is not, I'm not really spoiling anything, but what's the character's name? I forget his name, but Banderas' director character experiments with heroin to mitigate his pain. He's like he says it's for research. He takes it from a actor he had worked with 30 years ago and kind of mend some fences. And with that, when he gets really fucked up, he kind of has flashbacks. And these flashbacks we see by his upbringing, the east coast of Spain by Valencia, where he grows up. And his mom in the flashbacks is played by Penelope Cruz, the GOAT, of course. And, in these flashback scenes, a lot of times they're quite short and the meaning is not actually obvious at the time. You kind of have to watch more of the movie to understand why you saw that beforehand. But you learn more about his sexual awakening. Almodóvar, of course, is a gay man. And just the cause of his pain and who he became. And ultimately, yeah, it's a really subdued movie. I think Banderas, quietly has a lot of range in this movie, despite not having any really showy scenes the way you expect of a best actor frontrunner. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this, and it's all in Spanish, of course. So you got to lock in. I saw this right after Parasite, which was all in Korean. So I was doing a lot of reading that day. But yeah, I think this is definitely worth people's time, and it's it's a small release. He's big overseas, but he's never had a huge hit over here. So this is not going to expand too much bigger, I'd imagine. But I recommend Pain and Glory.
It's funny. Back when I was a kid, probably like when Zorro came out, I would have like bet a lot of money that Eric Bana and that Antonio Banderas both would have been a lot bigger than they ended up being. I feel like they're two that, because Bana had he had Black Hawk Down, and everybody was in that. But then you also had him in like Troy and like a lot of other movies like that. And I felt like he was like, he was Hulk on the cusp of being like huge. And both of them feel like actors that never really quite became what I expected. So I'm glad to see him doing some nice roles here as he's getting older.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just kind of been more famous as like a famous husband these days. Yeah. And like I can't speak to all of his international work, of course, but I think it's just nice for U.S. audiences to see a different side of Banderas. Absolutely.
Why don't we move on to Lighthouse? You actually attended a screening where the director did a question and answer afterwards. Give me your thoughts on that, and then tell me a little bit about Robert Eggers.
Yeah. So Robert Eggers did a Q&A for the Lighthouse. I think he did 3 Q&As last Thursday in Boston, and I didn't actually wasn't ready. This Lighthouse only played in 8 theaters last weekend, 2 of them in Boston.
Yeah.
So how about that? But this is his second movie. Of course, The Witch came out, and I believe it was 2015, 16, starring Anya Taylor-Joy, one of her first big roles. And that was really kind of celebrated as like the quote unquote elevated horror, intelligent horror that Ari Aster's been doing recently, and other people. It's not your slasher cliche horror movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't watch The Witch. I didn't watch The Witch.
Nope.
We don't like being scared at the movies generally, so we tend to avoid them even when they're good. But The Lighthouse is a little different. And, I got the rapturous reviews out of Cannes. Rapturous in the sense that people are like this movie fucks. Literally, it turns out. Like, this movie's all over, like crazy, right? Like, there's so much about this that's awesome. The Lighthouse. That was just the buzz out of France. And I'm like, all right, I love Pattinson, well documented. Who doesn't like Willem Dafoe? Always good, coming off 2 Best Supporting Actor nominations in 2 years. Eggers, 1 for 1 so far. How about this next movie? And then it does more festivals, and then people are like, yeah, man, The Lighthouse is great. And I have to agree, man. Like, I saw this, as you said, at a Q&A, so it was a packed house. People that wanted to be there. Great experience. Everyone was completely fucking focused on this movie. I did not see a single phone screen. No one talked. It was great. And then Eggers, I think, actually he had some fun insights, jokes, answered some. I think people asked him some good questions at the Q&A. So, he only talked for 10, 15 minutes, if that.
Mm-hmm.
But cool to see. That was my first time going to a director Q&A. So that was sick. But this movie, I'm not going to spoil what happens, but just on the face, it's an A24 film that Eggers, he shot this on location in Nova Scotia, and it has a square aspect ratio. It's in black and white, shot on 35 millimeter film. It's a film fans movie.
Yeah,
you can expect. But
most A24 movie possible, sounds like.
Right. But coming off The Witch, I was going in and I was like, man, I'm going to be stressed as fuck watching this, but I'm going to do it for the content, do it for the Pattinson fandom. And then I'm like, oh, it's not actually that scary. Like, it's quote unquote a psychological horror movie, but it's almost more of a thriller to me. The thing was, there's so much stark imagery in this movie, on top of the fact that it's already really stark being a black and white square shot movie. But as the trailer would suggest, it's very much indebted to like Herman Melville, man versus nature, set in, I believe, like the 1890s. Pattinson's character shows up to be a lighthouse keeper. Defoe's the veteran keeper there, and they're just kind of on top of each other. It's very much a two-hander performance. There's like they're basically the only actors in the movie, and hijinks ensue as they start to lose grip with reality. That's all I'll say about the plot. But what that leads to. I mean, from the start, Defoe, Willem Dafoe is well documented as being a boss, but having him like break down and chew out Pattinson in like 1890s like seaman slang and like insulting you like by calling you a scallywag, like literally like just going on like amazing soliloquies in 1890s English. It's just the best shit ever. It's awesome. And he's so good. He's got this long ass beard and he's like fucking farting and like it's so good. And then Pattinson starts off much more subdued, but as he starts to lose his marbles as the movie progresses, he just gets to let out and actually like kind of be more showy. And he hasn't actually been that showy in his past few roles, despite the wide variety of the roles he's taken. And we've talked about most of those movies. It's actually, I think, really cool to see our Pats finally like really lash out and have fun. Like, and like there's some interstitial scenes where like, the storm's brewing. They got nothing else to do, so they're just getting fucked up at the dinner table, just drinking, and they're singing and dancing around the table. And again, it's all in like this 1890s parlance. So it's really good. And I think overall the imagery, the way like the Eggers will jump from scene to scene. It's the same cinematographer who did The Witch. I really can't say enough good things about the movie. I don't want to spoil anything, no, but really, really engaging, thrilling movie. Awesome performances. The scenery looks awesome, despite the fact that you're just on this fucking rock with a lighthouse on it and the buildings around it. There's not a whole lot to look at, but yeah. And then there's a few like really just out of nowhere scenes, stuff it did to like Neptune, Poseidon, So yeah, the Lighthouse is expanding this weekend. Should continue to expand at least a little bit more from that. So I would really recommend this. If you're squeamish about horror, fear not. It's not a scary movie.
Sounds like some wild movie making. Sounds just like a crazy experience. I definitely want to check it out in theaters because I get the sense that you don't get the same feeling.
100%.
Yeah. I get the same sense for a movie like Parasite, which I am definitely going to prioritize seeing this week. Was really bummed I wasn't able to make it out to see it this weekend. Gaining a lot of buzz. Almost everybody I've seen on Twitter talking about it or that I know has seen it said that this is the best movie of the year. And the trailer in and of itself seems like it's set up as a real like psychological mindfuck. So I'm really, really pumped to check it out. Another Korean movie gaining a lot of buzz at the start of awards season. Obviously, was it Burning last year?
Oh yes,
that got a lot of buzz, and I haven't checked that one out on Netflix either. But Dave, Parasite is all the critical acclaim earned.
So this is a no spoilers review of Parasite.
We will be talking it once I see it.
Parasite was everything I promised it to be, but I'm not going to spoil it. But Parasite is my number one movie of the year. Burning was my number one movie of 2018. Shout out Korea. Past 2 years, killing it. Lee Jang-dong did Burning. Bong Joon-ho, of course, is the director of Parasite. We know him recently from Okja and Snowpiercer and The Host and a few other movies. And kind of the face of the Korean New Wave that started at the turn of the century. And Parasite, I mean, you've talked about this critical acclaim, but it honestly can't be overstated how this movie has been doing to this point. It unanimously won the Palme d'Or at Cannes earlier this year. First time that's happened since 2013. Bong, of course, also won Best Director at Cannes. And then it like Thrills a Telluride and New York Film Festival and TIFF as well. Like everyone's loving it, right? Meanwhile, it's been showing overseas at this point. This movie has already grossed almost $90 million before it started here in the US. I believe 70 million plus of that was in South Korea. So the hype is real. 99% Rotten Tomatoes from 195 reviews. That's only one negative review coming from the National Review. Make it that what you will. And last week,
I'm pretty sure it's the same guy that like fucked up Lady Bird's 99 rating and everything like
and
that.
again,
It's just
I don't actually like care about like the perfect rating shit, but just just
it's annoying.
Yeah. The first week it was out, it was only in 3 theaters, right? 2 in LA, 1 in New York City. And it made $376,000. That 125 per theater average was the highest of the year, of course, the highest ever for an international film here, and the highest since La La Land, and I believe the 18th highest PTA ever. So from that point to last week, when I got to see it, it was on 33 screens, and it was the 11th highest grossing movie of the weekend, 1.1 million. So this movie has a chance to perhaps get into the top 10 highest grossing international films, depending on how this expands, which is pretty wild. It's I think it's a lock for best international film nomination, of course. I think our eyes are now set on this getting a best picture nomination and Bong getting a best director nomination. Roma kind of opened that up in terms of that seeming more realistic than it has recently. That being said, only 11 foreign films have been nominated for best picture, so it's still not a easy road.
Lock, yeah.
That being said, why do people like this movie so much? And again, I'm not going to spoil what happens or anything about it, but Bong, we know Bong. I mean, you've seen Snowpiercer and Okja, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I actually haven't seen the other ones. I want to see The Host Really Bad. That's kind of like a monster movie. But the thing that's cool about Bong is all his movies seem to really revolve around class and social structures, right? Sometimes it's very obvious. A dystopian train navigating the globe, right? And The Host, from what I understand, is about corporate malpractice leading to a literal monster getting born out of a lake or something and terrorizing a town. And Okja is probably the most widely seen of all these movies because it was a Netflix film. People know that. Super pigs and factory farming. Yeah, but all comes back to class. And the thing about Parasite, which is really cool, is that it's set in Seoul, set in Korea. It's obviously in Korean cast. What do you expect? But the wealth gap in South Korea is very much a real thing these days. And this movie is like really obviously tackling that. But if you watch the trailer, you understand the logline of the movie. It's about a very poor family of 4 that basically infiltrates this into the services of a very rich family in Korea. The Kim family is infiltrating the Park family. And by infiltrate, I mean like they start working for this family by like kind of finessing the plug and just kind of getting in there and getting into this really nice house and working for this really wealthy family that's a little aloof and unaware of what's going on. And Bong, of course, is really adept at weaving in the class observations and the countless metaphors onto all of his movies. And in this case, Parasite is fucking hilarious. And these are jokes that land even when you're reading them as subtitles. So it's funny. Kind of a lot of black humor, to be honest. Super, super thrilling. There's a whole other layer to Parasite that you're completely unaware of until you start watching the movie. I'm not going to give any hints about what that is. But once that happens, your awareness of what Bong's metaphors mean takes on a completely new meaning in your head. And it's done in such a masterful way that I want to see the movie again now that I clearly know where it's going. It's so great. And of course, Bong, just as a pure director, now not just a writer, like he writes all his movies too, and all this concept goes credit to him. But as a director, he makes the movie so it's staged in such a thrilling way that as this movie crests, it's just impossible to look away. And I mean, his shots, you can think of shots in Okja, you can think of shots in Snowpiercer. In this case, there's a scene, extended sequence in the rain in the middle of the movie that is all these different angles. And I'm like, these are just like master shots constantly. And the fact that you got these shots with actual rain falling kind of like blows my mind. It looks awesome. And, there's a really good Vulture profile about Bong. And I was I read that 2 weeks ago, learning more about his upbringing in Korea as Korea was getting much more liberal and much more democratic in like the 80s. And hearing how that's kind of shaped his worldview combined with his his filmmaking process. He storyboards literally everything, which, you know, that's not uncommon. A lot of people storyboard. Robert Eggers at the Q&A actually told everyone how he wasn't a huge fan of storyboarding. What's funny though, because Bong storyboards so intricately that I think Tilda Swinton commented that it's almost like comic books, almost like reading manga. His storyboards are that detailed.
Wow.
And then he actually works with that where he doesn't shoot coverage, meaning the only stuff that he shoots with his cameras is the actual scenes he's making for the movie. There's no other cameras catching other angles just to make sure you have enough film to piece the movie together. He's so precise with his storyboards that he only shoots what he needs, which is pretty much unheard of. And obviously for a blockbuster, you can never do that. It's just not realistic. But Bong is he's such a fine tune on what he's trying to do with his movies that he's able to do that, which is fantastic to learn about. And, you know, I mean, we've talked a little bit about Korean movies. Like you said, you haven't seen Burning, but I mean, Park Chan-wook, we talked about his work on Little Drummer Girl last year. He, of course, is famous for Old Boy and The Handmaiden. I think him and Bong and Lee Chang-dong, who did Burning, are the most famous Korean filmmakers, at least to us here in the States. But in the meantime, it's Bong season, man. And Neon is distributing this movie. They have not done a Oscar push before. I think the biggest push they did to date really was I, Tonya, which did not get a Best Picture nomination, got some love for the acting nominations, and of course, Allison Janney won. But now it's up to Neon to get this movie that everybody loves and is a financial hit to the Oscars. Because as soon as you see this movie, you're getting on that train.
Yep.
So cannot say enough good things about Parasite, and it's once you can have a spoiler-filled conversation about it, I think it's even more fun to talk about. So, and see this fucking movie.
That will hopefully be next week that we can deliver that. I can't wait. The hype can't be higher for me. So, really excited to check out that and Lighthouse. But hopefully we'll also have Jesus is King next week. Maybe Jojo Rabbit to talk about. What else should we tell our audience to be listening to?
Yeah. Speaking of comebacks from Antonio Banderas, we also get a comeback of sorts from Eddie Murphy with Dolomite Is My Name on Netflix for everyone. FKA Twigs is releasing her first album in, God, is it 5 years? Speaking of Robert Pattinson, former girlfriend. The Deuce is wrapping up its third and final season on Monday. And Silicon Valley is starting its sixth and final season on Sunday. So the content mines dig deeper every week.
Hit that subscribe on YouTube, soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod to follow the podcast any way you want to, and at nostalgiapod on Twitter. Hit us up for that not off pod content, I guess I'll call it. Till next week. Peace out.